Hello guys, Croftus here. In this video I'll break down the ending of Alien Romulus with a particular focus on the engineer hybrid creature we encountered. I'll also explain how the black goo caused that mutation and how the next film might eventually intersect with David's storyline, potentially setting the stage for Alien Awakening. From Prometheus we know that a series of black goo mutations led to the Deacon. We also witnessed how direct contact with the black goo caused Fiefiel to morph into a xenomorph-looking creature. However, when the same pathogen was dropped on another engineer colony, the humanoids were almost fossilized. But in Alien Romulus, the effect of the black goo pathogen is completely different, so let's break down exactly what it did. One of the most surprising and exciting moments in the movie was the appearance of the engineer hybrid at the very end, a twist that I never expected. The inclusion of this engineer element suggests that their storyline will play a significant role in the franchise moving forward, especially given the central importance of the black goo compound. What's truly thrilling is that this new creature resembles the engineer far more than it does xenomorphs or humans, hinting at the potential resurgence of engineer-related storylines in the upcoming installments. So before delving into the specifics of this hybrid creature, it's important to understand the events that led to its creation, and why it bears such a striking resemblance to the engineers. And to do that, we need to revisit the Romulus lab, where Rook explains the process he used to obtain the compound that seems to be a version of the black goo. When Rain, Andy, and Tyler enter the Romulus lab, Rain notices the black liquid forming on top of a container and asks, "What is that?" Tyler speculates it's probably some messed up bioweapon, but Rook corrects him, saying, "Actually, it's quite the opposite." Andy then describes the dire situation facing humanity. Our colonies are dying, unbearable temperatures, novel diseases every cycle, toxic mine fumes. It's all one unforeseen tragedy after another. Rook continues, explaining, "Mankind was never truly suited for space colonization. It's simply too fragile, too weak. The work of the station is meant to change that. The perfect organism, that's how we should refer to human beings. So I set this one right. I took its gift for humanity." Inside the parasite which I engineered from this animosity and AI, I discovered a unique non-Newtonian fluid. Life in its most primal and unadulterated form. This microorganism can be the most destructive pathogen ever observed. But as synthesized in our lab, I turned it into the miracle Mr. Wayland died searching for. Prometheus fire, the divine gift for humanity. Z01 contains the genome responsible for the xenomorph's ability to accelerate and slow down its metabolism at will. Its symbiotic catalyst easily rewrites a host's DNA through its blood. This is a much needed and long overdue upgrade for humanity. So let's break down what Rook really meant. His reference to the perfect organism is a clear nod to the original Alien, highlighting the synthetic's obsession with creating the ultimate being. This monologue serves as a reminder that androids like Rook view the xenomorph as the pinnacle of evolution. Rook says inside this parasite, which something engineered from this animosity and AI, I discovered a unique non-Newtonian fluid. Unfortunately, Rook shoves his words to the point that the middle of the most important sentence of his monologue is not clear. However, this is the summary of what happened on the Romulus station. Weyland-Yutani recovered the xenomorph frozen in ice from the first Alien movie. It seems like using the xenomorph DNA, the company was able to bioengineer the facehuggers, although the exact method remains unclear given the absence of traditional xenomorph eggs from which facehuggers hatch. It seems that these facehuggers were incubated and developed in the lab without the usual ovomorphs. A plausible explanation could be that Rook's team received David's transmission that is shown in the deleted scene of Alien Covenant, where David details his process of creating alien eggs. However, the film doesn't explicitly mention this, leaving us with a lot to speculate about how exactly Rook and other scientists engineered facehuggers. However, once they did have a batch of facehuggers, it seems like they began experimenting on them and extracted a black substance. Rook referred to it as life in its most primal and unadulterated form, while showing the black goo urn, the same one we saw in the Prometheus temple. As Rook explained, the initial goal for this pathogen was to enhance human durability and grant full control over their metabolism, making them more resilient for space colonization. While they may have succeeded in this regard, the cost of these mutations could be the loss of most human traits, as we witness in the film's final scene. Rook also referred to this pathogen as the Prometheus fire that Wayland died searching for, implying that the substance they derived from facehuggers is either equivalent to or a synthesized version of the black goo. They called this compound Z01, and it's unclear how it differs from the original engineer's black goo, but it's strongly implied that they are similar or even equivalent. There's a whole separate rabbit hole about what exactly the engineer's black goo was in the temple. Eventually it became some sort of a weaponized pathogen intended to be dropped on Earth. It's also possible that violent mutations are perceived as something positive from the engineer's perspective. Instead of the negative interpretation as a bioweapon, the black goo could have been something that transforms humans into xenomorph-like creatures, similar to the deacon that engineers worshipped. Perhaps whatever happened to Fiefiel and Prometheus was the intended purpose of the black goo, suggesting that the engineers didn't intend to destroy humanity but rather to perfect it or mutate it, turning humans into violent beasts like Fiefiel. Digging even deeper, it appears that the black goo might have been a failed attempt to reverse engineer the goldish substance seen at the beginning of Prometheus. Instead of creating new life forms in the engineer's image, the black goo caused violent mutations, leading the engineers to repurpose it as a weapon. Going even deeper, a theory that I explore in my other videos suggests that the goldish substance that the engineer drank was actually the blood of their deity, the first deacon, depicted in the temple. So they might have tried to reverse engineer the blood of their lord, but failed, leading to their downfall. Since the engineer's blood is black, it's possible that the black goo is a mutated version of their blood, containing both engineer and xenomorph DNA. On top of that, in the Romulus lab, there is a recording of a rat being smashed and then injected with the Z01 pathogen. The rat regenerates quickly, leading Andy, Ryan, and Tyler to believe that the pathogen can heal severe injuries. However, as they leave the lab, the same rat is seen mutated beyond its original state into a grotesque rodent-like xenomorph hybrid, suggesting that the compound is not safe and can lead to unpredictable mutations, a fate that later befalls on a human fetus. Rook instructs Andy to salvage a vial of the Z01 pathogen and bring it back to Jackson's colony. On their way to the ship Corbellan, the group finds Kay, who is severely injured. Andy suggests that Kay injects herself with the Z01 pathogen, unaware of the consequences seen in the rat. However, Rain stops her from doing so, but as Kay's condition deteriorates upon reaching Corbellan, she decides to inject herself with the compound anyway, and what happens to her is extremely strange. In Prometheus and Alien Covenant, we saw 4 different effects that the black goo had on organisms. First, David tricked Holloway into consuming the black goo, and Charlie later conceived a child with Elizabeth Shaw. Charlie then began experiencing extreme pain and skin mutations, but we never saw the full effects of the goo as Vickers burned him alive. However, because he impregnated Elizabeth Shaw while infected, an alien embryo grew inside her. The trilobite was later extracted and then grew to an enormous size, ultimately impregnating the engineer, leading to the birth of the deacon, possibly a xenomorph predecessor. Another victim of the black goo was Fiefiel. He fell into a puddle of black goo which got through his melting helmet and entered his body. Within a day, his body was completely transformed, more durable and deformed, but devoid of humanity. So the black goo essentially turned him into a hostile xenomorph-like monster. However, in Alien Covenant, the black goo had a totally different effect on humanoid beings on Planet 4. It didn't really cause any mutations, but instead the bodies seemed to burn and solidify much like after a volcanic eruption. In Alien Romulus, the reaction was also really different. After injecting the pathogen, Kay appears tired, but her condition is not critical. Once Andy and Rain reach the Kerbellan, they place Kay in cryosleep. Kay had previously mentioned that she was pregnant, but as she enters the cryopod, her belly is completely flat. Yet within about 10 minutes, the fetus inside her grows rapidly and she gives birth to a strange egg-like shape which Rain throws into the corridor. This egg reminded me of the strange yellow sac that came out of the engineer at the end of Prometheus along with the deacon. Inside this egg, however, Rain finds a mutated baby, a hybrid between human, xenomorph and engineer. The egg secretes acid similar to xenomorph blood, burning through the floor and falling into the cargo section onto some soil that is resistant to acid. Then Kay starts to experience mutations herself. It's not entirely clear, but it appears that her skin begins to peel off, or the milk she secretes is black and slimy. Rain descends into the cargo section, but because this hybrid creature grows so rapidly, it escapes and returns to the cryosleep chamber. It almost kills Andy and appears to be eating Kay, an extremely disturbing scene. To me, this hybrid creature was the scariest part of the film. It was truly ugly, grotesque and disgusting, a complete abomination of a human and engineer. It evoked a strong emotional response that this thing should not exist. This creature possessed very few human traits, but was mostly similar to the engineer hybridized with the xenomorph. The hybrid had almost pitch-black eyes like the engineer's, but also pale skin and gills-like textures on its neck. In addition to its enormous size, probably even taller than the engineers in Prometheus. It also had protruding rib formations in its chest, similar to the fossilized space jockey. A unique trait of this hybrid was a disgusting, snake-like tongue, almost like a flexible xenomorph's inner jaw. I thought the newborn hybrid in Alien Resurrection was scary, but this creature is far worse. And the reason it resembled the engineer so closely is likely because, as I mentioned earlier, the black goo is similar to the engineer's blood, as according to one theory it was an attempt to synthesize the blood of the first deacon, the engineer lord. The black goo, or the Z01 pathogen, contains DNA of both xenomorphs and engineers, which explains why the hybrid has traits from both. As Rain confronts the creature and tries to freeze it, the hybrid attacks her, breaking one of the cryosleep fuel tanks. The cryofuel slows down the creature, but Rain also almost succumbs to the freezing effects of the fuel. She barely manages to reach a pressure suit and confronts the creature in the cargo hold. Just like the engineers are extremely hostile to humans, this hybrid also appears to be inherently violent and aggressive. In the cargo hold, Rain attaches herself to a steel cable and burns a hole in the floor with the acid left in the egg from which the hybrid emerged. This decompresses the ship, almost sucking the hybrid out into space. Rain then releases the cargo hold, which falls onto the planet's rings, destroying this hybrid abomination. Rain pulls herself back onto the ship and puts Andy in cryosleep, who appears to be completely broken. Rain swears that she'll fix him, and she takes out his hard drive, which appears to contain his consciousness, suggesting that if Andy's current body is no longer functional, he could potentially be brought back to life in another body. Another major point is that the Yivaga colony where they're headed is an independent and fully terraformed world, separate from Weyland-Yutani, where synthetics aren't allowed. Therefore, it's not clear what will happen to Andy. His body will likely be discarded, but Rain might still find a way to communicate with him by uploading his consciousness onto a computer or possibly into another synthetic. So the movie ends with Rain entering cryosleep with a few vials of Z01 pathogen somewhere on the ship. Rook mentioned that the Z01 pathogen is something that's extremely valuable to Weyland-Yutani. Knowing that the company would do anything to retrieve their assets, it's highly likely that Rain and Andy will be pursued by the corporation, which leads us to speculate what might happen next. There are many possibilities for a sequel. One scenario could involve the company contacting David to intercept Rain and retrieve the Z01 pathogen, which could be an interesting way to reconnect with David's storyline. It's also possible that when Rain reaches the Ivaga colony, it's already been taken over by David, with the entire planet infested with xenomorphs or other creatures born from David's experiments. One reason we didn't see David in this movie is that Michael Fassbender could be too costly and not all fans are excited for his storyline. However, since Alien Romulus already appears to be financially successful, David could make an excellent villain in the next Alien movie. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know your thoughts about the ending of Alien Romulus and what do you think happens next. Also, like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel for more content. My name is Croft and I'll see you in the next video.